Alright, so this video is on racism. Now, we're not just going to talk about racism against black people. We're also going to talk about racism against white people. See, because there are a lot of white people who are homeless that don't get the benefits of these two young men. However, that doesn't mean that these two young men are not heroes. See, they have both recognized on the news, which is very public, that it's not just a race issue. Now, Darren O'Connor, if you guys paid any attention to the conversation that him and I had, he understands that it's a poverty issue and a homeless issue, but he believes that racism played a lot more part than I do. Despite that fact, if that's the card that we got to get equal rights and human rights as homeless people, I'm all for it. So there's Zayd Atkinson. This is the guy who was picking up garbage. There's a guy named James. He's been picking up garbage the same way for years. He's got a beard like mine. There used to be a guy named John who did the same thing. Both of them with a grabber and a bucket. The cops didn't treat them any nicer than they did Mr. Zayd Atkinson. Matter of fact, they treated those two white guys even worse. But do you know why? Is it because those white guys are white? No, actually, it's because nobody was holding a camera. Nobody was screaming out the door about them holding a camera. Sammy Leon Lawrence IV. This man was assaulted by one of the officers who assaulted me. Officer Lolatai, who wanted to play the race card in a video where he was being filmed, claiming it was because he was brown. No, Lolatai, you're a dick. That's why people don't like you. You abuse your power. Now, Sammy Leon Lawrence IV, this man, the same as Mr. Zayd Atkinson, both acknowledged in public that it wasn't just a race issue. See, Mr. Zayd Atkinson, he lives in a house. He has special rights because of that. But also, he's black and lives in a house. So he gets special support from the black community. Whereas if this happened to a white person, yeah, there wouldn't be a whole bunch of people outside of the courthouse saying, hey, this is fucked up. Matter of fact, half the people that showed up at that courthouse probably would have applauded the police if Mr. Atkinson was homeless. A good majority of them probably would have applauded the police had Mr. Zayd Atkinson been homeless and white. I say this due to statistics, due to what I see with my own two eyes. Now, I want you to understand that I stand up for black rights, and I'm not black. I stand up for women's rights, and I ain't a woman. I stand up for children's rights, and I am no longer a child. I stand up for gay rights, and I'm not gay. Why? Because these are our rights, because we are human beings. We are citizens of the United States of America. While you're talking about how I owe these soldiers for dying for the rich because they died for my freedom, no, the fuck they didn't. I want your definition of freedom. Mr. Zayd Atkinson is a hero. He stood up to the Border Police Department and their fucking brutality, but he didn't have to endure that brutality. Sammy Leon Lawrence IV did, but only in small part because of the color of his skin, because of the community support, because of the color of his skin. Am I mad at these people for the color of their skin? No. Am I mad at these people at all? No. I'm mad at Black Lives Matters because they're racist. See, Mr. Zayd Atkinson, yeah, he played a little bit on the race card, but he admitted that it's not just black people, not just minorities. We need to see human beings as human beings. Not, oh, well, they're black. Black on black crime, blah, 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 blah. Really? Well, I'll tell you what. If you take a bunch of impoverished white people and stuff them all in a trailer park, yeah, those poor people, when they get desperate, are going to go steal from other poor people in that trailer park. There is plenty of white-on-white crime, but do you bitch about that? No, you don't. You guys want to say, hey, black people are committing 40% of the crimes because they're taking up 40% of the space in all the jails and prisons. Wrong answer. These people are targeted not just for the color of their skin, but mostly because they're homeless. Most of those black people in the jails were homeless when they were incarcerated. They were homeless when they were arrested. They were not given a proper day in court because nobody cares because they're fucking homeless. However, if it's a black man in a house, all of a sudden people give a shit. I like both of these people, not just because they stood up for our rights, but because they showed exactly what I was talking about. Same thing as Miss Shelley. Same thing as Natalie Bollinger. Same thing as Alicia Bollinger and Ted Bollinger. The things that I speak about are true. Am I mad at these people? Some of them. Natalie was my hero once. So was Maddie Boa. Maddie Boa is a lesbian. I have stood up for her rights. I've actually been punched in the face over Maddie Boa. Now, I'm not talking about after Virginia. I'm talking about before Virginia. You're damn right I stood up for that young woman. You're damn right I took a punch to the face for that young woman. There was a guy named Ryan. We called him Incredibly Gay Ryan. It turns out he's not gay. He just pretended to be gay to try to get women, which is a little odd for me. However, he was assaulted by one of Natalie's ex-boyfriends, that guy Cash that I always talk about. One day, Cash and this guy named Danny Dragon and a guy who went by Casper all decided they were going to beat up on Ryan because a guy named Kelly, who was gay and pissed off that Ryan wouldn't suck his dick, paid these guys to beat up Ryan. When I heard about it, what did I do? Well, I went down there to have a talk with all three of them. The first one I talked to was Danny Dragon. He apologized and said there would be no further issue. The second person was Casper. He decided he was going to swing at me. He hit me in the hoodie a couple of times, but he didn't actually hit me. And then there was Cash. Now, when Cash came around, Cash watched. That's when Danny decided that he was going to get involved because now it was 3-on-1. Except Casper was already over it. He realized he wasn't going to hurt me, so he stepped off. Cash was still standing back because he was sobered up for once. These stories I tell about the streets in Boulder, Colorado, these are all human beings. Danny Dragon has a family now. I remember Danny was going to stab a dude on the bike trail. Went after this dude with a knife. The guy on the bike trail was on a skateboard. Yeah. So Danny and two other individuals, one of them being Cash, decided they were going to surround the guy and not allow him to leave. I stood between Danny and the man he was trying to stab for a reason. I stood between them because it was the right thing to do. Danny is a family man now. He doesn't sell drugs anymore. He's a father, and he takes care of his business. Danny isn't white. He's part white. Casper is for surely white, so is Cash. Now, why do I bring all this up? Well, when all of this happened to Mr. Zayd Atkinson, he had community support, and a lot of it. Same thing with Mr. Sammy Leon Lawrence IV. When this shit happened to me, I didn't get public support. There was no Black Lives Matter in my corner. At no point in time was I allowed to speak on my own behalf. At no point in time was I allowed to show evidence. Not one public pretender was willing to look at that evidence. Not one officer was willing to look at that evidence. Not one. You think you have rights, but you don't. Most of you got lucky. You lived off your mommy and daddy's dime until you turned 18, and you had a vehicle because you lived off of mommy and daddy's dime. I earned my first vehicle. Bitch, so did I. But I had to earn it the hard way, while trying to get food, while trying to get a job with no ID. While the only things I had were the clothes that I was wearing when I turned 18. That's called aging out of the system, and it's how most homeless people end up homeless. No family support. When your family doesn't care, when they just assume that they're right and you're wrong, you must be wrong because you're mentally ill. My mom tried pulling that bullshit on me. Sean, you're mentally ill. Bitch, you're mentally ill. So my mom, she's in a fight with my grandpa's wife. See, my grandpa, he had colon cancer. He also raped my mother repeatedly growing up. Now, although I've never raped anybody, my mom doesn't even talk to me. She was pissed off I went to my grandmother's funeral. And she was pissed off at her other 3 children as well. Do you know why? Because she wanted normal kids. That's the issue me and my dad have always had. He thinks he can punish autism out of me. I'm against this. Another thing that I'm against is the racism coming from the black community. The sheer quantity of racism coming from a group of people, and yes, it is an entire community. The sheer quantity of racism coming from the black community is as disgusting and disturbing as the racism that comes from the white community. Why? Because everyone is capable of racism. Does Black Lives Matter actually care about anybody who is not black? I have seen thousands of people that I know, and myself included, march for Black Lives Matter because we believe, even us white people, believe that black people are human beings. At least those of us who marched with Black Lives Matter. Meanwhile, does Black Lives Matter give us that same respect? No, they do not. No, they do not. However, my case is different. I was painted as a murderer, and a stalker and a rapist and a child molester. And I am none of these things. I am never going to stop speaking out against the Bollinger family. I am never going to stop speaking out against the Boulder Police Department. Oh, we're sorry. No, you're sorry because you got fucking caught, bitch. Homeless people are still human beings. Punishing them financially, and that's how the courts work. They punish you financially. Punishing people with no money financially is cruel and unusual punishment. It prevents them from having an honest day in court. Public pretenders refuse to defend us. Now, if you're a good-looking homeless person like Cash, they might do something for you. If you're a good-looking homeless person like Mobley, a.k.a. Stephen McMillian, they might do something for you. Then again, Stephen McMillian plays Christian. Then he headbutts people like Brianna Hernandez Cordona because he saw a demon in them. This is mental fucking illness. This is Christianity in a fucking nutshell. See, the Christian community only looks out for the Christian community. For the most part. You guys want to start popping out with all of the exceptions to the rule? If 90% of these assholes are assholes, I don't give a fuck about the 10% who are just watching. I don't. Same thing with the black community. Same thing with the ignorant community. Yes, that is not the word that I wanted to use, but it'll work. Because the United States is an ignorant community. Same thing with the white community. Same thing with the immigrants. If it's not your group, you don't give a fuck. Well, I'm not Muslim, and I still stand up for Muslims. I'm not gay. I still stand up for homosexuals. I'm not black, and I still stand up for black people. Now, this rampant looseness of the law, where officers can outright break the law and get away with it because they did it to a white person, and Black Lives Matter isn't going to stand up for a white person, especially not a white male, it's pretty disgusting. See, James O'Brien and Adam Loon, they killed a white boy. Black Lives Matter is not picking up that case, are they? However, Officer Lolatai, the very same officer who assaulted me last year at the Boulder County Hospital on January 6th. Yeah, he's the one that assaulted Sammy Leon Lawrence IV. Demetrius Shankling is the one who was killed by James O'Brien and Adam Loon, two of the officers who assaulted me at the, well, they're not officers, they're deputies, and they assaulted me at the Boulder County Jail last August. But it's fine because I'm white. It's fine because I was painted as a villain and never allowed an honest day in court. I got two things to say to you. Number one, human rights are our rights. And number two, fuck Black Lives Matter. Racist fucking assholes. I will continue to speak out. Here's the reason for this. When I was in Virginia, I took notice of the fact that when I had a backpack on, I got treated like a homeless person. But because I had a vehicle, I could take my backpack off. I could put it in my trunk, I could dress nicely, and I could go for a walk and get treated like a human being. A black man cannot take off his skin and put it in the trunk of his car. I can pass as a non-homeless person if I put a lot of work into it. A black man is not going to be able to bleach his skin enough to not be black. What these men went through is disgusting. What the police did to Zayd Atkinson is disgusting. What they did to Sammy Leon Lawrence IV is disgusting. What they did to Dmitry Shankling is disgusting as well. What they did to Brian Gray is disgusting as well. Brian Gray is a white guy. What they did to Mark Swanigan is disgusting as well. I'm not friends with Mark Swanigan anymore. And I'm fine with that. I love the man, but he's the most racist black man I know. Yes, I can love somebody who's racist. Does that confuse y'all? I don't give a fuck.